downtown Ogden, I don't know that that would be the best idea. If it was to be somewhere on the outskirts or somewhere by the freeway entrance, I think that might be a better place to put the field house. But at this point, I don't have enough information on the field house to really make a good educated guess.
Thank you. Mr. Stevenson.
Thank you. As far as the Maylands Basin Resort, I don't think it was ever a real project anyway. There was never a developer that was really going to do it, I don't think. As far as the retail condominium on the golf course, I really think that there's a better way to deal with the golf course. Currently, we're working on a recreation master plan in the city that is encompassing all of the open space or recreational land or parks, and including the golf course and the high adventure activities that we have in the community as well. And I think that if we focus our energy and effort on the Mount Ogden Golf Course, it could become something that is right in line with exactly what we're doing in terms of high adventure in Ogden, and create some place that people will come from miles around to visit. That's my intention. As far as the streetcar, I really do think the streetcar is a good idea, and there is a lot of potential to it. Currently, right now, I have a big issue with the cost of the proposed streetcar. It is way, way too expensive, and things would have to change first. The field house, that's an issue that is very, very important, and I think there's a couple of reasons why I like it right where it's at, because it's connected to the conference center, and it would allow them to extend and bring additional tourism in, and it's got some wonderful recreational components that would increase business and flow into Ogden.
Mr. Thompson?
Maylands Basin, yes, and I'm assuming these questions are being asked as my part in it as the mayor of Ogden. So on that foundation, no, I would not be supportive of having my staff looking into how something could be developed up in Maylands Basin. I'm not for changing Mount Ogden Golf Course at all. 40 or so years ago, I broke my hand sleigh riding on one of those hills. It delayed me going to boot camp for 2 months, and if I did go when I was supposed to, I have no idea if I'd even be here today. So there's a definite personal interest in Mount Ogden, the golf course in that area. The streetcar, I generally questioned whether there was really a population for that, but I've come around to, as the question was asked, generally in support of that streetcar project. Today, the field house, I don't know, but I'd go back to my first answer that with my administration looking at it to see how it would work and stuff, I would probably not be receptive to do that. If tasked by the council and they were receptive, I'd give it an honest assessment as possible of doing that.
Ms. Van Hooser?
The issue of a ski resort in Maylands Basin, number one, it isn't even in Ogden. And number two, I don't think I've ever seen any real true plan that's come forward. So I'm generally not in favor of that at all. A condominium development in Mount Ogden, I think what we need to do with Mount Ogden Park, it is a golf course, but I think it could be a year-round amenity for the city, and I think everybody could enjoy that. I really would like to see us form a foundation of some sort where we can start buying off the land that's above Mount Ogden Park so that we can preserve our open space. And that's what we are. We're an outdoor recreation community, and I don't care whether you don't play golf or you do. That's important for Ogden, is an outdoor recreation community. The field house, I was not surprised at it being brought forth. I was hopeful that we would have had a lot more information. I don't think we should go it alone as just a city to do a facility like that. I think there's a lot of potential there. I would not say that I would deny it, but I would really rather see more information, because we don't have enough information to even know if it would be viable or something we should bring forward.
Mr. Van Wagner?
Thank you. Ski resort with gondola, no. Condos at the golf course with a retail center, no, doesn't make sense. What I am for is a comprehensive transportation plan. That includes a streetcar. There are 4 basic elements to a comprehensive transportation. You got your main rail, your light rail, you got your streetcars, and you got your buses. We need all 4, or a minimum of 3 of those, working in unison to have a comprehensive transportation plan. A transportation plan for Ogden has got to include Weber County. A transportation plan for Ogden City and Weber County has to include northern Utah. So what I would like to do is take a look at a comprehensive transportation plan to connect all of the dots of our community. Transportation has been guided by single areas of interest in our community, be it a gondola from downtown, be it a streetcar to WSU. We've got another college out at the other end of town. It's called OWATC. It's phenomenal. We need to connect all of our points of interest in our community with a comprehensive transportation plan.
Thank you. Mr. Ballard.
If I could go to the base of the mountain and jump on top of a gondola and then go up with my family and go skiing up a snow basin, of course I would want that. I mean, who wouldn't want that? Well, I'm gonna have to answer that right now. As far as the condo and retail, I know that's a floodplain area. I've not done a ton of research on that. I've spoken with Todd, who's out there, at the golf course, and I think that there are things that we can do there to look at ways to save costs. I like golf, but it's an expensive sport. Like we pay for tennis and basketball courts elsewhere. But I've often wondered how many of the Ogden residents are actually golfing there. So are we paying for outside stuff, or is it for our Ogden residents? As far as the streetcar, it's about $150 to $160 million that our federal government doesn't really have. They will match half of it. Where do we get the other half? If there are ways to do it and it makes sense, yeah, it's definitely something to look at. But let's not get past the burden on. As far as field house, I would be for that if a private party came forward and they were to run it and take care of it.
Thank you. Mr. Caldwell.
The gondola questions come up, and it's been amazing as we've knocked doors just how energizing that still is. And I agree with a lot of people that have said we never saw a formal proposal for that, and until you did see something formal, it doesn't seem like there's anything to be for or against at this point. It was an idea that energized a lot of people. So right now, until you saw something specific, I'd be against bringing that conversation up again in any type of form or fashion. Condos at Mount Ogden Golf Course. I've been on the Weber Pathways board for 7 years, and those trails in the open space that we work so hard to build, invest in, and protect, I think are part of that, and that's a critical part of one of our crown jewels in this community. So I would not be for a condo project on Mount Ogden Golf Course. Streetcar, I'm against right now for some of the same reasons Johnny mentioned. We started at an $80 million conversation. It's now a $160 million conversation, and it just doesn't seem to be any way to make those numbers pencil. A $3 million per year operating deficit that they'd have to fund and budget for is a hard thing to stomach. And I like the field house concept, the way the project came up this year and came to the ramp board. It was too expensive. There were not enough partners, and I think there's a need for some of those elements. It just needs to be massaged, and you need to have more community partners involved in that.
Thank you. Mr. Goddard.
As far as the ski resort in Maylands Basin, I'm just going to say no right there. And condominium development in Mount Ogden Park, no. I think we've built up high enough on our east benches, and we need to make sure that we protect our treasures, our trail systems. They're our greatest treasures we have. The streetcar issue, I don't think we're addressing demographics of the students of Weber State. We've got students that live in Layton coming in. We've got students in North Ogden. And so to run a streetcar from downtown up to the campus, I just don't think we're addressing that. And besides, the cost is astronomical. And as far as the field house, it sounds real intriguing. The water park, that sounds great. I know my kids would be right on board with it. However, it is a very big idea that right now, between the water park, the velodrome, and everything else in it, we need to shrink it down a little bit, and private developers would have to take on the burden of that.
Thank you, candidates. That's all we have on the major projects. We're going to shift gears now to the process of running government. So this next group of questions deals with the process of running government. And again, you'll have a minute at the end after 3 questions about this process to explain your point of view. So the first one, compared to how it's been in recent years, do you think the role of City Council in making decisions should be larger than it has been, smaller, or about the same? So this is the role of City Council in making decisions. If you think that City Council should have a larger role, raise your hand. Decrease the role of city council, raise your hand. Keep the role of city council about the same as it is now, raise your hand. Thank you. Second question. Let's talk about ethics policies. Our sponsors here. For example, policies on conflict of interest and financial procedures and allowed use of city-funded communications and financing of political campaigns. Overall, would you try to make the city's policies on these things more strict or less strict or about the same? So if you'd make them more strict, raise your hand. If you'd make them less strict, raise your hand. If you'd leave them about the same, raise your hand. And the last hand-raising question. Let's think about government transparency. Some people have suggested that the city should routinely put more of its official records online for public to use, including contracts, financial records, and conflict of interest disclosure statements. Would you, as mayor, make it city policy to put more of records online? Raise your hand if you would, and raise your hand if you would not. Okay, this time let's begin with Susan Van Heuser.
I think the role that we have in this city, we have a strong mayor-council relationship. I think the council needs to have the same information the mayor has when it comes forward to make good decisions for the city. I think at least a two-week window so that we can look at these projects, contemplate them, understand the cost and the variations, and what the impact is going to be to our citizens or, finances in the city. The ethics for me is a conflict of interest. It has to do with communication. I'd like to see us become a little more strict in the way that we bring forward issues. In other words, if we have a city council meeting, I think those minutes should be on the city council website as quickly as possible. I understand that there are limitations to that, but to wait to pass minutes that I passed last night that were from last February, I don't think that's a good policy. I think those need to be available for everybody. I also think for the ethics is that we need to find out if city council members or anybody that's in the city, what properties do they own within the city?
Mr. Van Wagner next.
Thank you. Processes of government. Compare the city council. We need to leave it just the way it is. We've changed from the old way, and we passed the ordinance and the change in 1990. It went in effect 1994. I think there needs to be more of a communication between council and the mayor, but I think the way that our government is currently set up, it suits Ogden well to get things done. Ethics and conflicts of interest, absolutely. We need to raise the bar in the political process for ethics, which will follow through into government. As you know, I'm the only candidate that is not accepting campaign contributions from companies and corporations. That's because I believe in a stronger ethics in the political process. Transparency, absolutely. I keep continually talking about transparency. We need to utilize all technology we have available to us to make sure that all of us, every citizen, if they want access to the information, it's available to you.
Thank you. Mr. Ballard.
I'm happy with the way the government is currently set up. It's very similar to how the federal government is set up. You have your executive and your legislative, and I think it will work better if the mayor and the staff works better with city council and actually talks about some of those things. There are certain items where you are trying to get things done as quickly as possible, and sometimes that makes it pretty difficult. I don't think it's always on purpose. As far as ethics, I think that starts from the top. If you have an ethical leader, who's is outgoing about things and is open, that the public will get the transparency that they're looking for. And I think I covered all of them. And I just might add, I think you're the hottest audience I've ever seen.
Mr. Caldwell.
I would certainly ditto that. I think there's a big difference between lack of communication between the administration and city council and the division of power that is